What's going on, people? Welcome to another episode of the Off the Ball podcast with me, your host, Chris LeBron. And today's show is brought to you by the Off the Ball Network. Today's show, I have a special guest with me. Knicks fans are going to really appreciate that, and college football fans are going to love this too. My special guest today is former Heisman Trophy winning quarterback and 11-year NBA vet Charlie Ward. Charlie, how are you today?
I'm doing well, Chris. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. Just like I said, enjoying this morning. Just had some on my morning cup of coffee, so I'm ready to go. How about you?
I'm doing well. I actually just got off another interview, but um, I like your hat though.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I have a few different color Nick hats. This is a few. I had the original Knicks hat, but the dog got to it, so I couldn't rock the original Knicks colors. You know how dogs are. That once they see something, you put it on the ground, and you just don't think, and then boom, it's gone.
Um, I've seen that happen.
Yeah, it's plenty of times and slippers, everything. You know how it is with dogs. But like I thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate you being on the show. I just wanted to get into your career, your NBA career, and I also wanted to talk about the process of being a college football player, but then deciding to go play in the NBA. I'm a big NBA draft guy. I do a lot of draft stuff in my show. I've had a whole bunch of draft analysts, experts. I've talked to some guys going into the draft. So talk to me about that process of being a star college football player, but then deciding to go through the process of going to the NBA. Talk to me about that.
Well, I mean, it really all started when I decided to play basketball my senior year in college, which gave me the option to keep my feet in the basketball realm of things, and once the basketball season was over, I started preparing really for basketball because I was behind in that area. I had one of my former coaches who's no longer with us, Kenny Eggman Williamson. He started training me because he knew my draft stock and where I needed to be if I was going to play in the NBA. And so he took the time and the energy to kind of be my agent, the guy who trains me, because at the time I didn't really have an agent, and so I was putting the majority of my time preparing for basketball for the NBA, and I would go out and throw football, every now and then. But I prepared for both. But when it all came down to it, the NFL decided they didn't want to draft me, which was their prerogative. I did make a statement about, if I didn't get drafted in the first round, that, I would be considering my other options because I had options. I wasn't 100% committed to the NFL process. And so they felt like they didn't want to draft me that high. And then, it came to a point where they didn't draft me at all. And so that was their prerogative. And as I've shared with others, that when we make decisions in life, we just have to live with whatever the consequences are. And so I made a decision that I was going to keep my options open. And I had to live with the decision that they were the consequence that the NFL wasn't going to draft me. And so once that happened, Coach Williamson and I continued to go and work, put more time in. And then I got an opportunity to go overseas with Coach John Calipari and Todd Bozeman for a Nike tour, for country tour. That was a great experience, and that was just another foundational piece. Then before that, I was afforded the opportunity to play in the NABC All-Star game. I don't know who worked that deal, but I was grateful for it because it was an opportunity for me to go and play against guys who have been playing basketball all their lives, or the college careers, and it gave me an opportunity to go and showcase my talent. And I just wanted to go and compete at a high level and show that I can play with those guys, which I knew that was the case, but I just need to showcase that. And lo and behold, I ended up winning the MVP of the game, and that was a very eye-opening experience for me to know that I was capable of being able to turn the corner. Mm-hmm. And then, as I mentioned, I went on the 4-country tour with Nike. And after that, I got an opportunity to go through the combines. I went to 2 combines, one in Phoenix and then the one in Chicago. Yeah. And both of those combines, I was blessed to be on teams where guys were very similar to me. There were no superstar guys that, they were complimentary or very good basketball players on their team. And so we actually won. We had a winning record with very few superstar guys on the actual roster. And so we all played together. Mm-hmm. We passed the ball, we shared it, and we looked for one another. Didn't really care who scored the most points. And so we actually we played well together, and we all looked good. And so I was blessed to be on that team, those 2 teams, and we had great success. And then I had good combines as well. Individual workouts. Got an opportunity to compete against Penny Hardaway, at that time, and actually competed. Which was good for me because I was a smaller guard. He was a big guard. Yeah. And I think they were looking at that aspect as well. And I knew Orlando would have probably drafted me if the Knicks was going to draft me or didn't draft me. But, that was the process that I went through. And I was grateful for all the opportunities that I was afforded to just be able to compete. And all I asked for is an opportunity. So mm-hmm. I was grateful for it.
Yeah. When was that moment, during the process that you felt like, okay, I could play in the league? What was that aha moment? Okay, I feel it. I feel like, I could definitely be an NBA player.
Once I got drafted, we had our pre-draft or, our pre-draft, we had our summer league. And, playing in the summer league was very good for me. I know it's good for Monty Williams. I know we got drafted the same year as well. And it just gave us an opportunity to see what the NBA game was like. We had some crazy practices. Coach Thibodeau was one of our coaches. And so we it was an eye-opening experience just to see what a practice looks like. Mm-hmm. And then once we got into training camp, Coach Riley, the conditioning piece was a little different.
He's legendary for that.
So the conditioning piece was a little different. And then I got baptized by Oakley on the hard fouls, and I figured out that if I was going to be able to compete on this team, to be able to play at some point in time, that I was going to have to ramp up my competitive juices, which that was no big issue for me because I came from a competitive situation at Florida State, and but really it was a process. What I mean by that is, I knew I could always play, and it was just a matter of me focusing, my time to be able to develop my skills and those types of things. But the intangibles and all those other things, I had. It was just a skill development that I was lacking, that kind of put me behind everyone else because they've been playing basketball, year round in a sense. And I was just playing it for, like 4 months. And so I was behind in that department. But when it came to the intangible things, I was able to, find my way. And so playing against Derek Harper, Doc Rivers, Greg Anthony every single day, you had to compete, but you also were learning. And I was grateful that I had an opportunity to learn the game from some of the best. And so there's really, the moment, I guess, was when I got an opportunity to play in the summer league was my aha moment.
Okay. So you get drafted. Did you expect to be a first round pick? Were you hearing that you were going to be a first round pick? And what teams did you feel like, all right, this is where I can go?
No, I didn't know at the time, that I'll be a first round pick.
Is that nerve-wracking knowing like, all right, I don't know where I'm going to go? Because, a lot of guys have a kind of, all right, I could go between 1 to 5, between 5 and 15. Was that like even more nerve-wracking on top of the fact that you might be able to hear your name on draft day, which is a dream that everyone, wants to hear their name draft day, but also I have no clue where I could go.
Because I got my agent late in the process. And, I was going off of, Coach Williamson, who has some ties in the NBA from his, years of coaching. And so I really didn't have a true understanding of what my draft status was, but I was getting individual workouts from the teams that were drafting in that where I got drafted.
Okay.
So like San Antonio, went to Denver, Orlando, New York. Those are some of the places I visited, and they were right around the 20 through the latter part of the draft. And so, I had some good word of mouth, competing with Coach Calipari. He had some ties, I'm sure, to the NBA. Todd Bowlesman had some ties to the NBA. I'm sure coaches or GMs were asking them about, my trip. Coach Williamson had some ties in the NBA who was working me out. And so, with all those people talking, hopefully positive about you, that was just another feather in the cap. And then, when draft night came, it wasn't nerve-wracking, but I was excited when they called my name, or when Ernie Grenfell gave me a call to let me know that I'll be getting drafted.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that was a surreal moment when you hear, you get the call from Ernie that he's telling you was drafted. So you get drafted by the Knicks. I'm sure you're excited, but what was that moment in the league? Who was the first guy to really give you, the business and make you feel like, all right, this is the NBA. This isn't college no more. What was that first moment in the NBA like that?
You mean as far as an opponent? Because
opponent, team. What was that moment where you're like, oh, okay, this is different?
Like I said, I played at a high level, even though it's the NBA. I played at a high level, and so I played against some NBA players in college, and then of course playing in practice each and every day. We get a chance to play with those guys, and so it was an adjustment as far as the speed was concerned, because now things got sped up. You learning. And so it was an adjustment when it came to that. But, as far as playing, you had guys like Allen Iverson that you were responsible for, guarding whenever you played. Mark Jackson, who's a bigger guard, backing you down, those types of things. It wasn't an overwhelming experience. It was just, these guys have been playing basketball for quite some time, and, I got to get in better shape, and I also got to study film, and all these different things that you have to learn continue to learn, as you continue to progress and grow. But as I said, for me, being in the same locker room, Patrick Ewing, that's an aha moment, because you grew up watching Patrick play, and Derek Harper, those were, times that you're like, okay, you're here. And then watching them, the year before playing the finals, and then you're actually on that team. And I didn't know that while they were playing the finals, that I would be on the same team as those guys. And so, just being able to be there was definitely a great experience.
Talk to me about Madison Square Garden. You played in an era with the Knicks where the Garden was probably at its peak, where it was at its loudest. You're playing, big time playoff games. Obviously, you're playing with Patrick Ewing and all that. Talk to me about Madison Square Garden, and did it live up to what you heard about? Because everyone always hears about the Mecca, Madison Square Garden, 34th Street, all that. What was that like? Playing at the Garden during your time with the Knicks?
Well, a few months before, I was at the Garden after the Heisman. After I won the Heisman, I got an opportunity to go to the Garden to watch a game. And then again, I watched another NBA game, Chicago Bulls against the Miami Heat, when we were playing at the Orange Bowl. And so I got an opportunity to see a couple of NBA games live, up close. And so driving to the Garden each and every game, was a chore within itself, but it was also a great blessing. Getting an opportunity to meet fans on the way over to, the Garden.
That's always interesting, right?
Street. Yeah. And so that was always intriguing. And then, playing in a time when we were winning, that was always great because it was always sold out, regardless of who we were playing. It was always sold out. And, the fans, knew more than the coach and the players. And
that's
so,
that's Knicks fans for you.
Yeah. So, they had their moments to be able to share their pleasure and their displeasure. But, it's like a family.
Yeah.
They came, supported us, and they booed us whenever we didn't play well. I remember one game we were playing against the Charlotte Hornets, and we didn't play well at all. And they played really, really well. And they might have been shorthanded. I know we played a couple teams where they were getting traded. Guys are getting traded, and they only had maybe 7 or 8 guys, and they just waxed us. And so there were moments they cheered loud, really loud, like when we won the Eastern Conference Finals. And there were times we got booed, because we didn't play well. And that was just New York. But it was definitely something that we enjoyed because we knew they cared.
Yeah, for sure. New York, you know how New York Knicks fans are. They like to tell you how it is. Even if you're an NBA vet and all that, they always feel like. Sometimes we always feel like we know more than you guys. But that's just the passion of that's New York fans. Period. Like there's always like that. They booed Mariano Rivera, New York fans, and Derek Jeter. So that's how New York fans. Yep. But yeah. So you guys get to the finals as an 8 seed. Just talk to me a little bit about that run. And it was a magical run. You beat Miami in the first round and all that. Just talk to me about that run. And, did you guys feel like you guys can do it, and win the championship that year, being an 8 seed and the short season and all that, everything. And with that, did you guys feel like, okay, we can do this, even though we're an 8 seed and we're supposed to not, most 8, see 8 seeds get to the finals, but we could do this?
Well, we didn't feel like an 8 seed, especially with the talent we had on our team. And of course it was a shortened season. We had like 50 games. And we had some new players that had to get integrated into the Jeff Van Gundy way of playing and system. And it took some time for us all to gel. I know that year Latrell was out quite a few games, which hurt the camaraderie with our group. And we had an up and down year. And I think Ernie got released from the job because he was having issues with the coach. And so there were a lot of dissension. Of course, we stayed true to being a team first and foremost. And Coach Van Gundy was able to get everyone back, and we got on the road. We won like the last 5 or 6 games going into the playoffs to help us get to that AC. And after we, won those 6 games, we continued to play well. We beat Miami and best of 5 at that time since first round.
Did that feel good beating Pat Riley, your former coach?
Yes. I mean, it's a competitive thing. And plus I didn't get an opportunity to play under him. And so I was grateful that I was one of the guys who was a part of that series and having an opportunity to play against Coach Riley. But he taught me a lot. But I was grateful that we were able to win that series in 5. And both teams were very equal. We were 8, like I said, we were 8 seed, but we could have easily been, 2 or 3 or even a 1 seed.
For sure, yeah.
And so it was kind of misleading, the seeding piece, as far as the talent was concerned. So we were able to ride that momentum from the first series, beating Miami, to really, shutting out, sweeping Atlanta that year. And then we went on to play Indiana in the finals. Then we won in 6 with, multiple injuries, during that series, and we were able to hold on. And then once we got into the finals, those injuries came to bite us, hurt us, because we just didn't have the depth from a big man perspective to be able to handle Tim Duncan and David Robinson. They kind of dominated the series in a lot of ways, especially Timmy. Not saying that having Larry Johnson or Patrick Ewing there could have helped, but I know it would at least given us a better opportunity.
Sure.
And so we just were outmatched in a lot of ways from a depth standpoint, not talent, but depth. And they made the plays when they needed them, especially when we had an opportunity to win at least 2 of the games at home, to force a game 6, but we just weren't able to do that.
Yeah. All right. So I got a few more questions before I let you go. I know this is kind of a broad question, but obviously the state of the Knicks right now, they've struggled probably since you left. It's kind of been a struggle. Without going too crazy into what is the simple things you think they need to do to get back to that relevance in the 90s, the glory years of the 90s, and be relevant again?
Well, I'm just gonna. The first thing is they gotta have some stability, in the front office. I mean, since the last couple of years, they brought in new staff, GM, president, and they did but they, traded some guys to bring in other guys, and then they had a coaching change, and they've had that numerous times. I don't know how many coaching changes they've had in the past, 20 years, but it's more than anyone would want if you're trying to win consistently. And so I just think where they are today, with Leon Rose and Tom Thibodeau, if they can stay on the same page when it comes to what they're trying to do, I think they'll have some great success. I don't know if Scott Perry's still there or not.
Yeah, still there, yeah.
Hopefully they can keep him around to be able to get everyone on the same page. Because once you start changing, figureheads, everyone's going to have their own opinion and thoughts on where the team should be going. But just like anything else, a marriage, there's going to be some disagreements, but you have to be willing to meet halfway, or see what others see and just deal with what you have. But that's the first thing. I think if they can all get on the same page, the Knicks will definitely do well, and stick with the coach. They have a very good coach, Thibodeau. I think if they can stick with him, they're providing some opportunities, bringing in some veteran guys to go with some of the young guys. And, somewhere at some point you got to establish a foundation. And if they can establish a foundation around some of the younger talent that they have on the roster right now, and not trade those guys for veteran guys, thinking and hoping that you can get to the top, within a year, but just ride those young guys out if they have talent and they're in a system, and you can provide some veteran leadership for them. And at some point they're going to become veterans. And next thing you know, making the playoffs is not out of the realm of reality, for next year, in a sense, because they brought in some veteran guys. And I believe Thibodeau, has the pedigree as far as coaching and the coaches he has around him, putting in a system, defensively minded, tough. All those things play a big part in, being competitive. And of course, you got to put the ball in the basket. And so you need those types of guys as well to do that, but also having discipline. That's something, and discipline is not just being off the court type discipline, but just on the court where, spacing is right, guys playing off one another, defensively, all being on the same page, being in the right spots, not thinking about yourself. All those things play a big part in success. And I think, they can continue to improve the roster each and every year. Then they'll have a chance to, be competitive and get in the playoff hunt. Because the East, there's a few teams there that's consistent. You got Milwaukee, they're going to be consistent. You got Toronto, regardless of who they bring in and lose, they're going to be consistent. Boston, kind of the same boat. And then, of course, the Nets, with the group that they have, they're going to be there. And so, we start looking at those top four, in a sense, just talent-wise. I mean, there's 4 more spots left.
Definitely obtainable to get there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think they're heading in the right direction. So let's hope so. Like you said, stability is important. All right, one last question. This is a football question. I'm a Miami Hurricanes fan, and obviously you played at Florida State. That rivalry is one of the best rivalries of all time, and it has lost its luster the last few years. Both teams have kind of gone up and down. Just talk to me about that rivalry when you were playing and how intense it was, because we all see, the documentaries on ESPN and all that, but you were in the trenches, going against Miami. Just talk to me briefly about that rivalry.
Well, it was definitely intense, and it was really, it was really a fun rivalry because, even today, when we get together, some of the old heads, I should say, get together and start talking about, some of the days when we played against one another. It's just funny to hear a lot of the stories, because a lot of times the guys in the heat of the moment are very competitive. But after the games, they're still friends because most of them either played against one another.
Exactly, right. Or recruited,
in
right? They
high
all got
school,
recruited together, yeah.
Or, all those different things. And so it was very competitive. A lot of pros on the field.
Yes.
When you compete against Miami, you're going to have, athletes all over the place. And the games are normally going to be competitive, regardless of what the records may say. You may have an outlier here or there, but most years the games are going to be competitive. And so that was something that we always look forward to. My 5 years there, we only won 2. But most of the games were competitive. I mean, we lost two of those games on a field goal where we had an opportunity to tie, and they both went wide right. And you just look forward to it. Any rivalry you look forward to because it's going to be very competitive, regardless of what the teams are playing like at the time. They're going to give their best effort to play that game really, really well and hard. But when it's all said and done, it was great competition. And you're normally, if you're friends, you're friends. And that doesn't, some guys from the same hometowns. And so it's more for bragging rights than anything else.
What was more intense, the Miami games or going against Florida? What did the fan base get real riled up for? Was it more Miami or more Florida?
Both.
Both. They are both because obviously all in state. But
yeah, all in state. But if you're gonna say you have a love-hate for someone more, it would be Florida, probably because they're closer.
Okay. Yeah. I've always got that sense with that Miami fans can't stand Florida, and Florida State fans really can't stand Florida. So, the respect for Florida State and Miami obviously goes, both ways, and that rivalry was great. So, those are intense. Like I said, I'm a Hurricanes fan. I just wanted to talk about that and that rivalry because it's to me one of the greatest rivalries of all time. But Charlie, I really appreciate you coming on the show. This was a blast.
All right. LeBron.
I'm a LeBron. And it's crazy? Like everyone thinks I'm like a big LeBron James fan. And I like LeBron James, obviously. And I even have it tattooed on my arm, but I'm Hispanic. So it's a very popular Hispanic last name, LeBron. It's like, it's very common like this. It's very common last name. So everyone assumes I'm a big LeBron. And I named my son, Jordan. So it's Jordan LeBron. So no pressure at all. No pressure at all.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I named my son Jordan. I was like, you know what? I always wanted to do it. I said, let's do it. Let's name him Jordan, So little pressure if he got to grow up and, he's got to play ball. But, Jordan LeBron's the name. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So thanks again, Charlie, for being on the show. Is there anything, you want to promote, your social media or any cool things you're doing?
I have a Believe in the ACC podcast. It comes on every Tuesday and Thursday. You can find that on the Noisemaker page on YouTube, or Charlie Ward Official is my Facebook social media handle.
Okay. Awesome. I'll make sure to post all the links below in the description when I get the show up. But thanks again, Charlie, for being on the show. Make sure you stay safe out there. It's crazy out here with COVID and all that. So make sure you and your family are safe. And like I said, thanks again for coming on the show, everyone. That was Charlie Ward. Thanks for coming on the show, Charlie, and have a great day.
My pleasure. Appreciate you having me on.
Thank you. Take care, man.
All right.